Hi, friends and family,
Welcome to Hope After Addiction
with your host, Katie Comer.
and Chelsea McLeod.
Hi, welcome to Hope After Addiction. We are so happy that you've joined us today. How are you, friend?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing really good.
Full-fledged
We're in
summer?
full force. Full force. I'm looking at all the camps. No, I'm just kidding. I love my kids, but it's like, I don't know when you're watching this, but it's like the first couple weeks of summer. It's a transition
Yeah. Structure, everything.
of being together. Especially I'm good with my kids being around me, but them together, they have to like relearn each other and like relearn like what makes them ticked off,
Yeah.
which is everything typically with each other.
Yes. That was my brother and I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chewing too loud or breathing too loud is always at the top of the list.
I struggle
So,
with that too. Yeah.
I mean, why are you breathing like that? That type of thing. And so
Yep.
we're just learning how to be all together
Yes.
all the time
And when to step away.
and when to step away. So my kids are 2 years apart and opposite gender. And so they have not a lot in common.
Yeah.
And so they are learning how, like, what is good to like play together. And if you go outside, what can we do together? And let's just all kumbaya.
Yeah.
And just like have a good summer. So we're in that transition phase of the first couple weeks of summer. So it's been
It's exciting.
exciting. But I really did look at camps last night. I was like, what can they do? That'll be fun for them just to kind of get away from each
Yeah. And they have fun. Like, that's the great thing is they love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So anyway, it's been good
It's
though.
fun. I know.
So anyway, today we are looking at something I feel like is even more prevalent in today's time. It's
Yeah.
comparison and why it's so fatal to your life. I think naturally when you think of comparison, I do it. I'm guilty of doing it. But social media,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just so easy
Oh,
to
yeah.
do. So easy to do.
Have
And
a whole section on that one.
and
Yeah.
I know. I mean, it's just everybody puts their best, and I'm guilty of it too. Like we'll have a trip. I don't put any of my nasty moments on there.
Right.
Any of the fighting.
Yep.
It's a great summer. But I mean, obviously I told y'all, I mean, like
Right.
there's some transition here, but nobody hears about that.
No. It's like I heard somebody say the other day they call it a highlight reel for a reason.
Yeah.
Because it's a highlight. It's
Yeah.
not the nitty gritty to
Yeah.
the whole week.
Right. So, I mean, so naturally when you see that, they're like, man, their life is great. But is it? So,
Yeah.
but then you do compare yourself to that highlight reel. And then why is it so fatal to your life? That's kind of what we're talking about. Why is it so nasty
Yeah.
to compare? And what does it do? What are the consequences of comparing your life to others? So that's what we're talking about today.
Yep. It's good. I'm so passionate about this one, I think, because I struggle with it. And I've had to learn, I've been off of socials for like 3 weeks, and it has
Yeah.
been like the best
Yeah.
thing ever. Because I was even paralleling this with addiction, because it's actually very similar. It's like I can quit, but I can't stay quit, but it's that there's a lot of parallels to it, to comparing. And it is the greatest thief of joy. And that's what I found with me. It's like when I step away from comparing or renewing my mind, that's when that joy like slowly comes back in. And it's special, but we live in a world today, and I feel bad for the teenagers and the kids growing up compared to like what we had, because of the rate of comparison today. Everything is compared, everything. And we see everything skyrocket with anxiety and depression and all the things, because you're comparing your life to something that God never intended for you.
Yeah.
You are uniquely made. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. There's one of you out of 8 billion humans in the world. Like, we're not meant to be somebody or something else. And often we try and do that when
That's
we
right.
compare to other people and other things.
Yeah. Yeah, I was comparing, actually, that's funny. I was at the pool with my sister, and I was looking over at these guys playing basketball, and I was like, are those high schoolers? And she was like, yeah, they're so big. They have so many muscles. This is so weird if I'm talking about this on the podcast. But they were literally so jacked. And I was like, they're like high schoolers? She was like, yeah, they're like 16 and 17. And I was like, that is wild. I was telling Adam about it. And he was like, yeah, it's so weird. In today's time, they compare themselves on social media.
Yeah.
And how I need to be is like, I need to get creatine. I need to get steroids. I need to do this. And I was like, because they did not make them like that when I was in high school. Like, even like all the jocks, like they were not like that. And he was like, it's a different time, babe. It's just a different time.
It's true. And I see it in my business just with like teen guys and stuff. Like they have their whole routine that's like lean chicken and lean hamburger and our protein shakes like 10 times a day.
They have it at their fingertips.
Yep.
And like all their workout routines, all their supplements. They can find all their ads and all this stuff. And even, can I just tell you, I have a 9-year-old son. And he doesn't watch social media. He didn't have social media. But he's around his friends and they compare, stuff and they talk about things. He comes home the other day and he was like, hey, me and my friends, we're talking about in a couple years, we're going to maybe try to go to a gym together and start working out.
You're like, what?
You're 9.
Yeah.
And but they're already comparing each other and like what, so I say all that just in today's world. I mean, it is wild out there, y'all. It's just so different than even when I grew up, because Adam and I were talking about all this and he was like, yeah, we just didn't have that social media to even know like the science behind all this stuff. We didn't have all that to compare each other.
Yeah.
It just wasn't around. He was like, but now there's so much influence and so
everywhere.
much. Yeah.
And everybody wants to be an influencer and all the things.
Yeah, it's just a crazy time we live in. But
It's
just harder. It's just harder. When we're talking about comparison, it's just a harder time to live in. And a harder for our listeners, you're like, okay, but like it's just all around us. It's just it's inevitable that we're going to compare.
Yeah.
And so, but today we're talking about at what cost?
Yes.
Right? At what cost? What does it cost you to compare? And so we can talk about social media, but there's also other things that you compare, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just even without social media, if I look at my life and like, God, why did you put us through this when other people's lives are...
Yep.
It seems so simple.
It does seem so simple. And we have one of the application parts of this I put is the renewal of the mind, because you constantly have to renew your mind to stay on the path that God has for you. Because the enemy, he wants you. He wants you to be scrolling constantly. He wants you to be comparing your life to somebody else's because you can't see what God has for you because you're blinded by the world around you. And so one of our adult choices recently was I have student loans from my bachelor's degree. And so we were gifted a minivan, 2005, low mileage. But I love my new Highlander, but the purpose is to sell it so we can pay off my student loans. So we're making adult decisions. And I have struggled with that. Like I get in the minivan and I'm like, I miss my backup camera. Like I did my Walmart pickup the other day and I had to get out of my car to open the trunk, which I always help them load, but still like I couldn't just open the hatch with a button, you know? But I found myself like comparing, you're in this old time minivan, but I'm like, what a gift it is, because it goes back to perspective.
Yeah.
How many people don't have a car and would give anything for a 70,000 mile minivan for their kids?
Yeah.
Even pregnancy, and I'm at the end right now and I'm pretty miserable. Like it's hot. I'm so swollen. And John even said, and I'm careful because it's taken me so many years to get here of what I say, because I'm blessed. Like I'm blessed for poopy diapers. I'm blessed for feeling miserable. Like I never thought I would get this.
Blessed for my swollen feet.
Blessed for my swollen feet. Yeah, none of my shoes fit, And John, we were talking yesterday and he was like, just remember how blessed you are. And I was like, I know it. I know it.
I know you don't need to say it.
But I know. And I remember infertility for 13 years and people would complain and in the comparison state. And I'm like, do you know what I would do to be in your shoes to be that sick? Like, do you know what I would do? Another one I thought about is your husband's at rehab, your wife's at rehab, you're complaining about all the things while another spouse is sitting here because their spouse died. And so when it goes to comparison, it is important to renew your mind and be grateful. Yes, it's okay to have those hard feelings. It's honest feelings, Your husband's at rehab, this stinks. But also perspective that somebody's praying for the very things that you have right now. And so it's easy to compare and lose sight of what we have and our gifts, but somebody's sitting there praying for those very things right now.
I love that.
And that's a perspective.
Yeah, it's definitely a perspective. And it kind of brings me to a point that I have is comparison is a distraction from God's plan for your life.
Ooh, that's so good.
And you have a unique, so for us listening, right, for the listeners, typically they're in a season of their loved ones in addiction or some state of unrest.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a good word.
Whatever it may be. And comparison, when you're looking at other people's lives, and like I said, like, why did my life have to be so difficult? Like, why did our marriage have to be so hard for that season? If I constantly dwelled on that, it would have distracted us from God's unique plan for Adam and I's life.
So true.
And if I had stayed in that season, and I think it's just natural. We're human. We are going to compare, right? But this is just our encouragement to you to kind of like a bird's eye view on your life, right? Saying, okay, I know that I'm doing this comparison game, but what is it taking from me? And for you personally, and for me in that season of me comparing to others, I could have stayed in that and missed out on the beauty of our story.
Yep.
And saying, okay, yeah, I can stay in this. No, I want that white picket fence. I want this. I do not want a marriage like this. And I could have left and found something new.
Missed it all. Yep.
And missed it all because I was wanting that comparison of what I thought was right, and what I thought was beautiful. We all have this image in our brain of what you think your life should be like. And I could have missed it all. I could have missed the beauty of watching Adam pour into guys, like him even telling a story last night of a guy and just really being honest with him about his life and what he's about to lose. And he's telling me this and I'm like, that is so beautiful that you have that gift of being direct to a guy, but loving him so well.
Yes. And that is a gift.
Right?
Yeah.
And saying, you're about to lose it all, man. What's it going to be like when another guy is raising your kids? And it's so hard, but it's so beautiful to watch and them just like cling to what Adam says. And I could have missed it all because of comparison of what my life should have been like, or what I thought it should have been like. Right.
Yeah. And it's uncomfortable. I mean, the states that we find ourselves in, no matter what you're going through watching this, it is uncomfortable. It's painful. It doesn't feel good. And one of the things is like, God packs our bags with everything that we need for this life he has given us, for the one part of the story. And Papa used to explain the world as a blueprint. Like he has blueprinted this world, your story, and he's packed your bags with everything you need to get from start to finish. Even when the choices are not ours. And I think it's one of the hardest things with this family addiction ministry is, but we didn't make these choices, but we didn't fall, but we didn't screw up so bad, but we didn't do this. But it's still our story that God has given us. And he's packed those bags for you to walk through that with your loved one. And to do it in the will of God is Romans 8:28, but for those of us who love him and according to his purpose. And so know that whatever you're walking through, it's uncomfortable and it's easy to compare to a screen and say, but God, like, why is her husband so perfect? Or why does he help all the time? Or why does he not struggle with a drug addiction? But we can't see on the other side what God's doing. And that's the most beautiful, because I know, like with what Katie's saying, I would miss so much beauty if I would have walked away, if I would have ran or fled like one of our last podcasts. I would have missed so much. But if I would have let the enemy lead me in comparison, which at moments I did, for sure, we're human, I would have missed the miracle. I would have missed the millions of tiny 1,000 moments of memories because I chose to compare myself to another human being that God never asked me to compare to. And if you go down to the nitty-gritty of it, God never compares us with anybody else. He never intended to. He never intended he doesn't hold Katie and I together and say, well, Katie's got this better, Chelsea's got this better. He looks at gifts. Katie does this, Chelsea does this. Those are the spiritual gifts I've given them to help the specific people that I'm going to align them with, and however long we're here on this earth.
Yeah.
We're individuals, and he made us that way, not to compare with anybody else, and nor will he ever compare us. Because we do that to ourselves. The enemy does that. Well, Katie does that better. Or, she's a speaker. I'm not. Some days I wish that I was a speaker. And it's easy for me to compare myself, but God made me a writer. And that's okay. God made her a speaker.
I'm like, man, I wish I could write like that.
Right? But like God made us so individually.
And it's really beautiful. And one of my other points is, it creates a lack of gratitude when you start comparing. It kind of, to your point of the whole pregnancy thing, like you get so focused on the negative that you're like, oh wait, but I want a spirit of gratitude. I'm so grateful for having this baby. But like for us in our situation, that you're in, if you compare yourself to everybody else, you forget the unique qualities that you have, and that spirit of gratitude that you need to have. It steals that. It steals that.
Steals the joy and
steals that joy, and it creates this sense of unrest in your life, essentially. And so we encourage you to look at things that you need. You always talk about your, what is it? The journal.
The gratitude journal.
The gratitude journal.
Yep.
And so I actually talked to somebody the other day about, how about you just sit down and think, cause she was so focused on all the negative in her life. I was like, why don't you just go home today and think of all the things that you're so grateful for? And, when you're talking about comparison, just kind of bringing that back, it kind of removes that a little bit, because you start really focusing on what you're grateful for.
Yeah.
So
it's the Matthew 6:33, which goes along with that. Seek first the kingdom of God, and these things will be given to you. And you have to take that deeper, and it's the spiritual aspect. And I have to do this when I'm in a spirit of comparison, or I know that I'm in a negative spirit, because when it says these things will be given to you, when you seek the kingdom, your desires begin to change. Your heart begins to change. And so the things will be given to you, but you will find gratitude again. You will find yourself to be grateful for the hard stuff. And so the world tells you, if you just have this, you'll be happier. If you have this husband, you'll be happier. If your kids do this, or if they're at the elite school, then everything will make you happy. And so we spend our lives chasing these things on a hamster wheel, and nothing ever makes us happy, because we're seeking not the kingdom, but the worldly things. And so I have to go back to this, and every time that I'm in the Word, He renews my mind, and I realize what is important and what is not important. And He gives me those things, because He gives me contentment. He gives me in the best way, because contentment can be dangerous, but He gives me the desires of my heart, because I'm content with who I am and what I have. I'm reminded to be grateful and thankful for everything that I have. And He just brings my mind back in. And that's a part of like shutting out the world, shutting down the social media, all the things. And there are perks to it. I'm a big advocate, like against it in ways, but there are definitely perks to social media. And so it's a balance.
Yeah, that's true.
But to seek first Him and His kingdom, and He will bring those things to you, and to not compare.
Yeah. You have anything else?
It was a couple. I did want to read this on
Yeah,
social
go
media
ahead,
because I
go
had a
ahead.
whole social media
I
section.
know. I know. Well,
was
that's the
like,
thing I started out with because
social
I'm like, I
media.
know that's.
It's the biggest.
Yeah, I feel like that's just in today's world.
Yep.
I mean, that's where a lot of my examples came from.
Oh,
So,
yeah,
go
for
ahead.
sure. This one was a study just released January 8th of this year. And it said, according to a research study, this was by Yale Medicine, American teens aged 12 to 15 on social media over 3 hours each day face twice the risk of having negative mental health outcomes, including depression and anxiety symptoms.
I believe it.
Which is crazy. And the crazy thing is we talk about our young ones, but y'all, I have watched family members in their 80s and 90s become addicted. Like there's
wild.
literally,
It's true, though.
and their lives change.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite quotes that I had found a while back, but says your phone keeps you close to the people far away, but far away from the people close to you. And so how many times do you go into a restaurant or at a family event and people are sitting there and they miss the moment.
I know.
They miss the daddy. They miss the mommy. They miss it all because they're literally looking at a screen. And so one of those things is I just challenge you. I mean, if you're in a state of comparison, of coveting, any of that, put it away. Delete it off your phone and watch your heart come back. Like watch your heart start to beat, watch the joy come back. I just challenge you to do that, especially if you're in a tough season. And we've said this a lot.
Yeah.
If you're in a tough season, rid yourself of everything right now. Go back to simple. And that's when the distractions and the comparison are away where you can hear God pour into your heart and your head. So another thing is the best thing is to compare yourself is to God and the person you were yesterday. There's nobody else horizontally on this earth that we need to compare to other than God and ourselves yesterday.
Yeah.
So that's what I have.
I love that. So essentially, when everything's said and done, comparison is really a thief of joy.
Yeah.
And we do encourage you to kind of take a look at your life. And maybe this just isn't something you struggle with, but I do know a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And in your life right now, for such a time as this, don't look at everything around you and what everybody else is doing and what everybody else has, because for such a time as this, God has put you in this position. And look at what God's plan is for your life. Really seek what God's plan is for your life and trust God's plan for your life. Don't compare it to anybody else. You are in your own unique path, and we would have missed it had we kept comparing our life to other people and what our life should have been like. And so I'm so grateful that God kind of shifted my head saying, don't look at that. Look at what my plan is. And I see it every day in Adam's life and what he does. And so I'm so grateful for that. I have that spirit of gratefulness. And I try to focus on that. So we hope that you felt encouraged today. And we are so thankful for our listeners. We love great feedback. We get it a lot. So we're just so thankful for y'all. If you are watching this on any of our socials, make sure you share it. And that's how we get the word out. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe so you can get some reminders of when we release our other episodes. And you can also email us at hopeafteraddiction@gmail.com if you have any questions about anything that we've talked about. We love to answer those. We hope you have a blessed day. And again, we're so thankful for you. We'll see you next week. Bye.